This meeting is being recorded.
All right, this meeting is being recorded. Well, here we are again, Hannah and I, to talk about the sun's ingress into the sign of Taurus, and maybe a little bit of other things like the sign of what the sun is, what is Taurus, who is the planet that rules Taurus, Venus, what is she like, maybe some keywords and things about that time of year, the season, and then kind of where we came from last month and how it's built to now, and then where we're going, and maybe then the aspects that are coming up for the month. And we'll look at the chart, we'll check it out, and we will do some personal shares and talk about some collective stuff. And does that sound good, Hannah?
Great.
Awesome. I just want to take a moment to invite our ancestors, the sun and the moon, our great ancestors, to circle with us and let us be informed by the great cosmic wisdom and guide us and protect us and bring us together. We are so excited to be here, and this is so fun for us. And this is our second show in this project of conversations of when the sun ingresses into a new sign. So already Taurus season is banging out, snap bangity bang. Would you agree? Everybody talked about how the whole lineup last month in Aries was really just so huge with Saturn, Neptune coming together, and then the pile up that happened, and it was really huge, wasn't it? So much has moved forward in the collective, in my own life too. And but I would say that things are still pretty riled up, if you ask me. I mean, riding the wave of it, right? But it's just like, I don't know, it still seems like everything is just like pop pop popping for me, even though technically this month things are like, not last month, not last month's popcorn popper. But I gotta say, it's like feeling intense, right? And it has definitely steered my course of action, and I have a lot on my plate. How about you?
I guess actually, I am appreciating the Taurus feeling. I My realization with the Aries new moon was more of being focused on that which authentically makes me feel good. And I feel I've been embracing a more nervous system, health-based approach. So, for example, for me, I was experiencing YouTube addiction. And so I was just noticing, I'm like, this makes me feel bad. Like, this feels bad. It doesn't feel good to scroll. And so the the thing that was most true for me and for Aries, they're all focused on authenticity, what is real for them. If you try to suppress what is true for an Aries, oh my God, it's bad news. They have to do what's true for them. And so the thing that was true, the thing that my nervous system was really telling me was like, hey, this is not good for you. And so for the last couple of days, I've been experimenting with, okay, don't feed that urge. And so when you want to overcome any kind of addiction, you have to replace it with something else. So instead of following the urge of, oh, I want to go on YouTube for some dopamine, it's like I'll listen to an audiobook. And that has shifted things instead. So I'm not like scrolling. And I just noticed for me, I'm just so much cleared up. It doesn't really take that long to like detox in a way, because that information I was getting, this is also Aries too. It was just kind of almost like combative, where it riled me up. It riled up my nervous system, like making me see things almost like worse than they really are. So it was also fogging up my judgment and activating me into a state that it's like, that's not real. I don't actually live in that world, but it might exist out there. But there's no need for me to kind of bring it into my space. And so just by having that distance, not engaging with it, I feel like I am enjoying the wisdom of Taurus in that it's about follow that natural unfolding pace, honoring your timing, honoring the sensations you have, and it definitely makes me appreciate this season a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Especially like, I love how you're talking about following the call to get out of your head. Last month when we had that pile up in Aries, it was a lot of head stuff, a lot of go, a lot of conflict, a lot of cleansing and purification awarenesses about what was just too Neptunian, too boundaryless, where I was getting lost in the mix. And because I also had, like, it's funny, but I also had like a social media, not social media, but a YouTube like check. I'm like, I'm watching, it's always studying with me, but still it's like I'm studying too much on these things where it's like I need to embody it. Right. And this is too
That's
much.
very Taurus too.
It is very Taurus. And that's what I was just saying is like, it was interesting that how you were like bringing it into the sensuality of listening to a story and slowing down and not doing the scroll or from one class to the next class or whatever it is. But we're still seriously have so much of a pile up in Aries still that we're still playing a lot of that out. But now that we're in Taurus season, the sun just a few days ago, that definitely changes it. The sun is our lesson. It's the warmth and the vitality and the battery, the charge that we get, the energy that we get, and it's our will and our sense of self and our illumination and our vibrancy, the sun itself. So even though the sun, even though there's still that pile up where the sun exalts in Aries, that pile up in Aries that's still going on and we're still feeling it, I also extremely felt the shift when the sun moved into Taurus and lit up my Taurian circuits. And now things, it's a lot of check, check, check. I'm now cleansing. I went for literally a reset on the coast, right? Like my friends brought me in to do astrology for them at the coast. I was the honored guest. It was so awesome, right? And I got to participate in that way. And it was such a comeback to my body to embody and in my purpose in Taurus, the girls, the people, the community, the deep roots, what Taurus represents, my sun, my vitality in the sky and in me got Taurified. Next thing you know, I'm at the coast in luxury, surrounded by women. Taurus, Taurus, Taurus. You know what I mean? The earth, the land, that's Taurus stuff. The goods, the assets, the bodies, the labor, the energy that comes out of the physical field, the containment, the building of stuff so that it is a thing, the material matter of Taurus. And I literally felt like all the heady introspection from the Aries shift into like a physicality, like so definitely, literally. I was at the coast, right, when it all happened too. So it's like it was there right on the brink of it, and gathering with all these women, Venus and the coast and Aphrodite, and there's the whole story of her rising up out of the ocean. So it's right. It's there. I almost wore my pearls today just because I was like, Venus pearls, but it didn't. But like, yeah, so it's like, I feel you. That happened to me too with the YouTube and the heady overdrive, just being like, no, I need to get more embodied as it moved through. And, Venus actually went into Taurus a while ago and really kind of brought it forth. The sun was still in Aries when Venus moved into Taurus a couple of weeks ago, whatever it was. So now she's actually just about to get out of Taurus in a couple of days. And the sun will still be in Taurus for the rest of the month. So I think that's really interesting because, a couple weeks ago when Venus went into Taurus, but the sun and all that pileup was still in Aries with new beginnings and rah, 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 and starting all this new stuff and it overwhelming the Neptunian, the structure of Saturn. Mars came in like a hero, and boy, did he. and saved me on multiple levels, and then but Venus had already gone into Taurus, and it was nice because even though there was all this like raw energy in the collective, as we know, um a lot of feminine issues were also taking precedent. I felt like, as Venus was in her home sign, the sun wasn't yet, but now it is, and they're both co-present together in Taurus until she moves out into Gemini. But I always think it's really lucky, Hannah, whenever the sun is in the same sign with the planet that rules that sign. And it's not every year that Venus is going to be in Taurus. Like last year, I think it was, Venus was in Taurus for like just a small amount of time, super small, like maybe even like by the skin of her teeth, and then, but she did get that superpower of having the sun come and charge up the sign that she rules while she was in it. So that's kind of happening again right now. Because, not always is the sun in the same sign as Venus whenever she is. So, but yeah, what do you think about the constellation of Taurus and like what it represents? Do you have some keywords or some things that you want to throw out there?
Yeah, so I really like to reference vibrational astrology, and they distill Taurus to an essence. And the essence that they've identified is Taurus is like Taoism. It is focused on an unfolding way and being attuned to their senses in such a way that they have a sense for what is supposed to unfold, when is it supposed to unfold. And so that's why it has a sense of Taoism, and following a naturally unfolding way is because Taoism recognizes male and female energy, and there's wisdom in both. And Taoism is, the yin and yang symbol of finding that harmony between the two. And Taurus is really can be great at its essence at embodying this, when we can be attuned to our bodies. It always starts with our body's attunement, because your body is the antenna. So it's going to give you all these signals. And so if you're unhealthy, meaning like maybe you're not getting enough sleep, or you're not eating well, or maybe you're consuming bad media that is making you see things poorly about the world, you're not going to be attuned to kind of like a higher knowing, or a more a deeper sense of what is real. And so I think Taurus also is very much about being grounded. It's an earth sign, and it is also a fixed sign. So it being associated with the bull, Taurus gets a reputation for being stubborn. It doesn't necessarily have to be stubborn, but it can seem stubborn if someone is trying to press a Taurus person, and they're like, no, I know the natural unfolding way, and you're trying to get me to speed up or do things that I am not sensing is the right time, and that will piss them off. And so I think the season, and we're in the northern hemisphere, so we are experiencing our springtime, and so it feels like a very nice overlap that, as we identify Taurus as this earth element, and then everything is blooming to life, it feels good to go outside. Our eyes get to see so many beautiful things. May is one of my favorite months in the year, just because you feel not just the blossoming, but really it feels like everything is alive and heightened and just kind of almost at a prime. And there's a real element of savoring what is there. And yeah, and Taurus is ruled by Venus, and so Venus is what we're attracted to. And so it's just kind of like a fun month as well, because it is about feeling that attraction. And part of that attraction to beauty or a desire is informed by your senses, and you have to be honest about that. And sometimes people can have a really warped relationship to their desires, where we get messages that, oh, you shouldn't have this desire. you can actually get messages like that on both the conservative side and the liberal side, like, oh, you shouldn't have that desire, because the message gets super warped about what it means and if you belong to the group. And so there's a lot of distortion between ideologies and our true knowing, our internal wisdom of what we want. And desires are actually a huge blessing. And that's why Venus feels like such a gift, and is exalted in Taurus. Because
Venus owns Taurus. Yeah, she's domiciled. The moon exalts in Taurus.
domicile. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, the Venus and
Oh,
the
right. Venus's domicile in Taurus is that Taurus just makes it so natural. You know, there's not really the confusion. Taurus is very straightforward. It's like, I feel it and I know it and I naturally follow it. And so that level of it being just straightforward, grounded, knowing, it's very comforting. And to, I guess, allow yourself to feel that wisdom of Taurus, yeah, it's very comforting. It's very natural. And humans, we enjoy feeling this way, but like I said, there are ideologies that can really distort our relationship to our desires, to our body, to our senses. And then we get really pissed because we're like, man, I'm having such a struggle because I have a desire, but I'm told it's bad, or I feel like I shouldn't have that, or whatever. And it can make us feel very suppressed or irritated. And so I think part of the gift of the month, or Taurus in general, is making things more simple, more straightforward, honoring the senses, honoring your desire, and just embracing and reveling in the simple beauty and the simple pleasure of it.
Yeah, agreed. And having the sun go into Taurus at the same time as Venus is still there, which does not happen every year, that really gives us a strong sense of it. I'll tell you, I put my whole garden in this year. I got help, of course, but I mean, the point is like last year I just did an herb garden because I was like, I did a little bit of food, but this year I'm like really focused on getting food in, because why? And it's been happening for weeks since Venus, before the sun went into Taurus the other day, because we're still in the 3-degree orb. It's like, I think the sun is at maybe 3 degrees right now. So we try to do these within the 3-degree orb, right? So the sun is 3 degrees into Venus, but Venus went in, or 3 degrees into Taurus, but Venus went into Taurus a couple weeks ago. And I have been like steady on the garden. I have like probably mowed 3 times, had a total overhaul, like garden, like weeded like crazy, planted tons of food, took care of all of these herbs. Like so much stuff was, and I didn't do that last year. So it's like I can really feel the power of the sun and Venus together. Thank goodness that it happened just I don't know, a week before she leaves out, or maybe even less than a week. But thank goodness, because like you said, it really does help us to, anytime Venus goes in there, but with the sun and Venus both in the same sun, it really gives us access to a lot of our power. And especially while we had all that go with the new moon in Aries and all the planetary lineup in Aries, getting the work done, I did. The Neptunian, okay, I made it real. Mars come in, yeah, we like freaking got this done. I had a lot of help, cut and sever, all sorts of things. um so I really, and also, Venus is fixed. So even before the sun and Venus were together, I could still feel the fixed pull of it this year, routing me into playing it out before it even happened. That's always what's so neat, is to look back and be like, oh wow, I could feel, before it even happened, I could feel it pulling me so differently than last year. And that fixed energy of Taurus, like you were talking about, it's like the roots go down in like the beginning of spring, but in Aries season, even before, whatever. But by the time like the fixed energy, those roots start to swell. Yes, they push themselves down and they were still young, and like they were pioneering, like pushing forth down and up, like cracking out of the seed, like Aries energy will do in the early spring. But yeah, that fixed energy, now that those little sprouts and shoots and roots, they're thickening. Now they're, like you said, they're attracting more physical substance. They are manifesting girth. It's not, and like you said, I don't like it. I don't really love it when people call Venus or fixed signs like stubborn either. I don't really love that at all because they're not like stubborn. That's like a crappy human quality, right? Like that's out of balance. It is quite balanced to remain fixed because the more fixed that root is, the more fruit that's going to come, the more veggies and fruit and the stalk's going to thicken up. And in this time,
So Molly, what would you say is what are the things to look out for this month in terms of transits and other planetary ingresses?
I've got a little we've got some things that are going on like while the sun is still in Taurus, all of these things are going to happen. Venus is going to ingress Gemini. That's going to be in a couple days, really. Uranus, we all know that one's coming. This is the big bangy. This is why I think Uranus is going to go into Gemini on the 27th. And of course, that's the big digital, the big war, the big, techno kind of. And I think that's partially why, even before, because we all feel Uranus ingressing into Gemini. I think that's why we're all like, digital content. I need a break. I need to get more Venus. Need to get more embodied because we feel the bzzz of Uranus getting ready to cross over that boundary line. Then Mercury also May 18th, that's in a couple weeks, is going to ingress into Gemini. Wait. Is that right?
Oh, I think it's Mercury. May 4th, Mercury will go into Taurus, and then May 18 it'll go into Gemini.
That's what I said, right? I forgot to say that it's going into Taurus May 4th. It's only in a sign. Mercury's only so fast. It's only in a sign for 2 to 2.5 weeks. Venus is only in a sign for 3 weeks to a month. Mars is in a sign, I think, for almost 2 months, right? Those are the inner planets. And then bang, we hit Jupiter for a year and Saturn for 2.5 years. May as well just throw this in. The moon 60 hours per sign, and then the sun an entire month per sign. But anyway, so then we'll have Venus is gonna, while the sun's still in Taurus, Venus is actually going to ingress into Cancer also. Isn't that crazy? Is that possible? Yes, it is. So she's going to move into Gemini in 2 days, and then before the sun's even out of Taurus entirely, the sun will almost be out of Taurus. She'll already be into Gemini. Mercury will already be into Gemini. And then Mars is going to hit into Taurus on May 19th, right then too, just a day before. So that's interesting though, because when Mars goes into the sign of, Venus's signs, it's always a little cutty. So it'll be cool that when the sun will still be in Taurus when Mars cuts in. It'll kind of leave behind more safety, I'm hoping, especially since the way the collective is getting crazy. I'm looking for signs of Venus doing well. The feminine, the people, the polarity, the money, the wealth, the resources, the abundance, the health, the vitality, the hunger, food, safety. That's what Venus loves, those things. Art, beauty, the culture, the people, she wants those things. So I'm just hoping that by the time Mars gets in to Taurus on May 19th, the sun will still be in Taurus, hopefully creating a...
Oh, you mean Mercury? You said Mars.
Yeah, Mars ingressing Taurus. Sorry, what did I say? I'm just saying that what I'm saying is that when Mars gets into Taurus, it likes to chop shit up, right? Hopefully with the sun still being in Taurus before Mars gets there, there will be a type of protection. Why do I say that? Because Venus was still in Taurus when the sun got there. So hopefully there's a ray of protection going on because everything in the culture is getting so insane, right? So, but anyways, and then I guess our next big thing is that, and everybody's looking forward to this Pluto retrograde.
So let me just do an overview of what you just said. Okay, so what I heard is that Venus, even though Venus is currently right next to the sun, Venus will be moving out into Gemini come April 25th.
Yep.
Okay. And so that's only in 3 more days. So for the majority of this Taurus season, Venus will actually be in Gemini. And then the other big event, and this event is big because it only happens every 7 years, which is Uranus is changing to Gemini as well. So Venus and Uranus actually continue to be next to each other, but they will be in Gemini. And so it's interesting what you said, Molly, about watching the women, the feminine, protecting that, and staying attuned to it. So in vibrational astrology, they say that the kind of essential function that Uranus has is staying attuned to the moment. And it's not necessarily like a negative or a positive thing. It's just about waves of the moment kind of permeating. And so the fact that Venus and Uranus will be on top of each other, I think that we will be attracted to being attuned to the waves. But instead of it being maybe about Taurus things, it's going to be about Gemini things. So it might, yeah, turn more into learning, being curious. So, but we're still going to be in the Taurus sun. So our kind of focus, our actual awareness might be on Taurian things, Taurian matter, such as being aware to your senses. But Venus and Uranus in Gemini might make us more curious about that, and that maybe which we are naturally drawn to. So that's one of the big aspects. And then the other thing I heard you say is that Mercury will be in Taurus for about most of the time. So that means that the way that we think and connect will be Taurian. So it will have that, again, sense of feeling things out, being, thoughtful with your words, maybe being drawn to Taurian ideas. And then come May 18, Mercury will also join with Venus and Uranus in Gemini, and Mercury rules Gemini. So we might have a supercharge of thoughts and ideas and connections. And then Mars is going to stay in Aries for most of this Taurus season. So we're still going to have like that Mars. Oh, we'll still have Neptune conjunct Saturn, and Mars still being in Aries. So we'll still feel that kind of like push. Neptune and Saturn is make the dream real, being practical about that which you're fantasizing about, or bringing the dream down to earth, maybe taking away the superficial. And Mars is going to be about, okay, yeah, what can I do? And being driven to make it real, or being honest with it. And then the last thing, I don't know if you mentioned this, but I have it on my notes, which is Pluto goes retrograde. Pluto in Aquarius goes retrograde from May 6th until mid-October. And this is just significant in that Pluto going retrograde, I think, will be a kind of, in the same way we've been talking about this Taurus theme of slowing down and thinking about ideas, and like you said, Molly, all that lineup of Aries, we kind of got fried. We're like, oh, I'm too in my head. I suspect this Pluto retrograde will also have us maybe being a little more quiet, or reflective on that which we've learned, since Pluto has been in Aquarius, where we've had a lot of our focus and collective awareness on social group dynamics. I constantly am hearing about just analysis of class warfare, of people being unhappy with the wealth distribution, of being really aware of how the system is rigged, and how our social groups are very much manipulated depending on where you are. And I think that also is going to be a kind of, maybe if not a reflection period, maybe people will be like slowing down. So overall, the sense I'm kind of getting is that even though Mars is going to be in Aries, like we're going to want to move. Taurus in Mercury in Taurus and the sun in Taurus is going to allow us to like kind of enjoy it, savor it. Uranus in Gemini, Venus in Gemini will also allow us to be kind of curious about these things, but maybe our perspective and the wisdom is to still notice your senses, on your senses. But yeah, allow that element of curiosity and following the waves of that which you're drawn to influence your choice.
Yeah, and maybe give us a chance to kind of build up and prepare and be in a little bit of safety and having the capacity to do things with the Venus being in Taurus with the sun, like an extra power pellet to prepare for, when Mars gets out of Taurus, it's going to go into Gemini, meet with Uranus. I think that's at the 4th of July is pretty much, and so yeah, we've got a lot of things that are like coming up that are pretty intense. So I'm grateful for this like little small, like hopefully a sign of a blessing that the Venus energy was blessed by the sun coming into it. Like looking and that Mercury is in Taurus, thinking about communication, about the feminine polarity, the things that we all need as humans and as communities and as people. Like hopefully the fact that these all are coming together are kind of a sign that needs will be met, that protection will be doled out, as like kind of some crazy times are coming up. That's in the collective with a lot of the intensity. And right now also, like today, Venus and Uranus are like together on the chart, right? I can't see a chart right now. You see Venus and right. So it's like we've got Venus and Taurus like together right now. And the sun is protecting, right? Because the sun has come in with vitality, warmth, higher vision, purpose, will. Like the lesson is Venus and Taurus when the sun comes in. And she's with Uranus. So when they travel together into Gemini, hopefully they will continue to carry the light, right? Carry the light of protections for the polarity of the physical manifest, which is so important because it is also important to be in our visionary exoteric yang energy pushing forth with our vision. But like, come on, it's like it's got to be real, it's got to make sense, right? It's got to make dollars and cents. It's got to be like Venus loves her money, like the material has got to be able to materialize. If like your ideas can't materialize, that's not good, right? So hopefully, there will be promise for the whole year. Because also when you think about it, when Pluto till mid-October is often Scorpio season. And even though I'm not checking the proper dates, we know that Venus is going to go into a retrograde in Scorpio season. So that's interesting, and so hopefully like, we will hopefully like layers of protection are being set down. Like me in my garden, there's food, people taking preventative measures now that will play out in the future. Having the sun come to Venus while she's in Taurus right now in her up, giving energy to her intentions. And then when everything travels over into Uranus and then, into Gemini, and it goes bang, hopefully there will still be that kernel of Venus's needs that are being met by the sun right now coming into her sign will continue to play out for the better in the future. And then because Venus will ingress Cancer, May 20th, and Jupiter is still going to be there then. I want to make sure that I'm right about that. May 20th, yeah, Jupiter is still going to be exalting in Cancer. Oh yeah, until July, I guess it is. Yeah, until July. So, so that means the two benefics will be together too, and the sign of the community and the family and the home and the hearth. So that's good. It's like she's gonna make it. She's blessed by the sun in her own sign right now, Taurus, with the god of revolution, Uranus, out of the box, move into Gemini, where Uranus is always creating war when it moves into Gemini, and all this crazy shit's going on. Venus will be with them over there, hopefully carrying the message of her safety, her groundedness, the things that the feminine, the people, the polarity need. Then she gets through Gemini, and then she goes into Cancer, where Jupiter, the great benefic, is in his exaltation. And hopefully that's just going to bring more love and peace and beauty and art and higher awareness. Venus things, good for the people, good for the earth, good for the good for the family, and like maybe like double down then and have some more, because I'm just looking for the things that are going to be healthy and healing for the people, in these crazy times where there's a lot of um, struggle going on. I don't know if you're feeling. I mean, I feel like we're kind of in a blessed way right now with the sun joining Venus and Taurus, but shit's crazy. It's like lots of big shifts, ups and downs, changes, and crazy stuff going on in the collective. Say it, but it seems like with Venus and Taurus, and then the sun coming in there, like there's an ability to make good of things right now, even though craziness is going on. And I'm hoping that's going to stay for a while, because we know that opposite Taurus is Scorpio, and we know that she's going to retrograde in Scorpio. So when she gets to Scorpio later, we're going to be looking back to right now. It's going to be the flip. And we're going to be probably grateful for all of the lucky beauty body things that we came into and embraced, and allowed to guide us getting my garden done. I'm going to appreciate that when it comes down to like Scorpio time, which is
I see. So kind of the advice you have is that um taking heed of your senses, taking heed of that what you feel called to do right now is a blessing, and we might be surprised the ways in which it can really set us up well for later in the year, in which Venus will be in its detriment, and you're saying that it could be um harder then, especially, and it's also in a retrograde.
right. Let me see though. Oh, actually, that retrograde. Oh, yeah. So, yeah.
Which I don't say any of this to invoke fear, none of this is to invoke fear, but it's a kind of sense of like, hey, if you get that sense of like, this is a natural unfolding thing. I think the other piece of wisdom I got after like the Aries headiness, the stellium buildup, um, was just kind of this idea that, speaking of Pluto and Aquarius and the Aquarius like retro or the Pluto retrograde coming up, just this idea of if there truly is I mean there are elites and there is a disproportionate they own a disproportionate amount of the wealth and resources of the earth, and they are the ones who orchestrate the wars, and they are the ones who orchestrate and manipulate a bunch of disasters that we the people have to pay the price. And we ultimately we try to make sense of it in the best ways we can, and sometimes that can come at the cost of blaming others who really are not involved or not responsible, because a lot of the things that we're going through are intentionally created by bad actors who have the disproportionate power. And what I would say that the kind of revelation I had with the Aries buildup was just like, these every time you get this feeling of like, I'm not productive enough or I'm not doing enough work, all these little messages, this internal critic um that we kind of all have internalized, and we are raised in it and on it in our schools, in our work. Even our parents probably said things like this to us because it's them doing the best they could. We've all been programmed to think that, we're not good enough. Like, oh, I'm not productive enough. I'm not doing enough. But the truth is, we were never meant to live like this. This isn't a human way to live. This is just not even, we're the highest tech possible, which is biology. And we are forced to act like we're robots. And the wisdom is that, or the wisdom or the message I got is that every time you notice yourself judging yourself on, am I being productive enough, am I doing this enough, or even worrying about the future, worrying like, oh my gosh, is this thing going to happen, whatever, those are all those responses in you, as much as they are real, there are ways that these greater forces have control of us, but the thing is that they're not really true. The truth is that like, you being connected to your sensations, you being connected to the knowing that you're a human. You're not meant to be working all the time. You're not meant to be perfect. You're not meant to overperform. You need a balanced life. You need to have rest. You need to have play. You need to not have high stakes all the time. Uh, I think we're shifting to a phase in which we're seeing the elites pushing, and I'm talking pushing AI. I mean, yeah, I work in the energy sector, and I went to a energy conference, and I just saw CEO after CEO talking about how we definitely want data centers. Why? Because they're putting so much capital in. And but the funny thing is, here's the funny thing, is that the people are stopping these data centers. There are people who are protesting them and they're not getting built. And so they hired a researcher. Hey, can you do research about like how to determine feasibility for a data center being built? And you know what her response was? Her after all her research, her findings said, "Oh, before you build a data center, you should really check in with the locals first, because if they say no, it just don't go through with it. They're not going to let it happen." And to me, I had to laugh internally because I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're telling the powers that be no?" You're telling these guys like, "Oh, yeah, the people don't really want that. You shouldn't do that." That's not their angle. Their angle is, "Oh, we want this, so we'll find a way to do it." And the funny thing is, like, yeah, no one is asking for these data centers. No one is asking for AI. And yet, where the hell is all this capital coming from in order to put it in? It's very anti-human. None of the humans want it. None of the humans are saying, "Hey, let's do this in all these ways." And I'm not anti-AI. I think it's a really useful tool, but I mean, you can find so many examples of the ways it's being abused, and yeah, just used in horrible ways. And this is just the beginning. And so I bring that example up to say, like, there is a rift that's happening in terms of the humans waking up to the fact that, yeah, we are humans, and you try to make us robots. And we have so many messages, internal programming messages, and self-criticism of like, I should have worked harder, I should have been whatever. It's like, you're not a robot, you are a human. And the more you can respect your humanity is the more we can actually live in dignity.
100%. And that is like what Taurus is about. It is about you value. We
Yeah.
look at us. I mean, we are magical instruments, amazing technology. And we have accumulated together under naturally occurring forces of order and higher levels of evolution, right? We are valuable because of that. As many say, we are batteries. We create energy. We're also data banks. We hold energy. There's so many metaphysical ideas of what the human being is. And in its own, just on its own, a human being is extremely valuable, let alone having some system oppression squish every ounce of energy out of you to live in a corrupt, engineered environment that wastes you, and where, false orders and all these pretenses that we consider normal in this system is literally just a crock of crapola. And um we need to really understand, like you were saying, like, we're not meant to be robots, and we're not meant to like see our worth or our value as an extension of what we produce. We are valuable inherently because look at this magical thing that we are. And these corrupt systems that are misusing and misappropriating our energy, this has been a long, 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 long time like that. And this is just the modern day, and everybody's so convinced that everything is like so evolved. And really, it's just like, no, it seems like everything's a shortcut now, made out of cheap crap. The wrong things are being valued. And um and so that's what I love that we're talking about that you brought that up, because Taurus is like, the nature is what's actually valuable, and that
Yeah.
respected. And that's what Taurus was saying. It's the earth, it's the raw material. We are raw material. and
Yeah.
honed to such amazing, beautiful instruments that we are by the grace and the glory of this beautiful nature, and that treating ourselves with respect and dignity, treating each other with respect and dignity is actually going to make the real power that is congruent with nature instead of some weird AI hyper output that's spinning everyone towards values that are like ridiculous, you know, consumer minds, and getting all of our energy steered towards addictions and things that create ill health, bad mental health, bad community, bad society, right? On health within us. So Venus says, we want art, we want beauty, we want higher love, we want justice, we want peace, we want sensuality, we want to bring the value out of ourselves in a way that helps to heal us and each other, because that's the proper use of it, not this running down this crazy road of modern day humanity, which is cheap and disposable and literally corrupt, while we get our oils pressed out of us. Taurus says, be in harmony and dignity and get the real value out of the human being. Relate in harmony with the earth. We don't need a whole bunch of like crap energy and crap AI and plastic fantastic idiocy. And like that's another, I think that's a beautiful thing for people to come to realize, that when we are in that, we have a great hookup to a higher level of consciousness, which allows us to be in harmony with nature to manifest what we need. We don't have to work that hard. We just have
No.
creativity and support. But systems of oppression just want to get us sick, make money off of that sickness, and spin and sacrifice humans of people in engineered wars, so to speak, or getting everybody to believe to run to the rat race so that they can go out and buy their next fast food.
There's something really interesting here in that, yeah, so what you're saying, the rat race and all that, when we start to hear it, it is stressful. It's stressful. It's like, oh, right, I'm trapped. I can't do anything about this. And this is the first of all, what I would say is that is the left brain speaking. The left brain is the servant. It's not the master. The master is the right brain, and the right brain has the capacity to feel awe. The right brain is the part of us that feels great connection. The right brain is the part of us that has a sense of spirituality and empathy. And the right brain, according to Ian McGilchrist, who's a major neuroscientist, is the master. We're actually supposed to live our lives from the master, not from the servant, which is the left brain, which is the part of you that can do linear work, is logical, can speak language. It's super useful. It's awesome in terms of being a really great tool. But it's not the master. It cannot be driving the ship. The thing that drives the ship is that sense of connection to things, is awe, is spirit, is emotion and connection. And humans are highly evolved to read emotions in other people. We're highly evolved to be very sociable and be empathetic towards each other. So that is our true nature. And the thing that is so beautiful about that is that the right brain, again, it's a bigger picture. It actually, the left brain will make you think like, oh, I have to have all the answers. I have to know how to work out. The left brain is where you feel fear. The right brain doesn't feel that. And the right brain, because it sees a bigger picture, it knows that things can work out in a way that we can't even comprehend. And so that's why it can feel like a miracle, is because the master lives from the miracle. It actually, not everything is supposed to be known, and we don't have to know how to get there. We just have to cultivate. We have to practice right brain activity. We have to live from the right brain, because right now we're a left brain dominant culture, and a left brain dominant culture actually produces mental illnesses and personality disorders such as like schizophrenia. So the left brain actually increases what we see as more antisocial behavior, whereas the left brain, getting a sense of connection to community, to people, to God or spirit or universe, is what actually is part of your deep humanity. And the robots can't do that. You know, the AI can't do that, but the humans can do that. And so our power is always connecting to that. Meditation is a really great way to connect to your right brain. Just creativity, doing art. Musicians. Okay, so there's three groups of people who are more likely to use their right brain. And it is people who are musicians because they're using their left hand a lot of the time. They're using both hands. And so the left side of your body is controlled by the right brain. So just using your left hand, okay, you're connected to your right brain, you're activating it. People who are left-handed, they're using their right brain more. And women actually use their right brain more because we have more connections between both the hemispheres. And what are women known for? Being very sociable, caring, empathetic. Of course, men are absolutely that way too. There's just intense programming for them to dissociate from their sense of care. But the truth is, like, if the right brain is the master, then the women are the leaders because we actually are more connected to the right brain. And so that's part of the wisdom too, is the path or the women, the caring is part of the way in which we also connect to the greater truth, and the way that we actually, you know, like I was saying before, where you hear, oh, the rat race and the oppression, like, it's scary to hear of it because it feels like a trap, you know? And I'm here to say that when you operate from the right brain, when you show care and empathy, when you believe in something bigger than yourself, when you connect to nature, which is something bigger than yourself, when you do all those things, that is when you are living from the right brain, and that is where you experience the miracles. And so the fear part of us, the part that is the master, is going to tell us this is impossible. Everything is going to shit. But that is not living from the master, and our job is to return to the master.
Beautiful. I love that. And it is super true. And I feel like the Venus helps us to realize that. And we need to protect that faculty. And this is another thing that Venus and Taurus wants us to realize, like, you are the raw material. You are the ability to sensually embody your visions and your dreams and to make them real by respecting your sense of security and your health and normalizing and pacing well-being of all the reflection around you and through you. And that is what is so exciting about the sun being in the sign of Taurus with Venus herself, giving us that great memory and inspiring us to transcend the mental fear that's not connected to anything because it's noise, or because what's true is that we with our ability to connect empathetically, we do create miracles. And the more that the system of oppression gets us in our left brain, gets us in the fear monger, the more that we shut down our natural aptitude to do the beautiful angelic high promises of reality, which is to heal and to make good and beauty and to provide enough with your mind and your heart and your community and your ability to manifest, right? Whoa, manifest. And we all have a masculine and a feminine polarity within us, no matter what gender we are. And the more the system gets us in our fear mind and causes us to focus on the linear reality where we can't see the answers to things. We're just like, oh no, it's not going to work. I can't see the answers to things. I'm stuck in but then we flip to the other part of our brain and we realize we're creating reality. But that's the very artistic side, the empathetic side, the side, like you said, that doesn't need proof to know that we are multidimensional.
That's actually why we have been so that is why we've been so impoverished as humans, is because like if you had your basic needs met, like I'm just thinking like hunter-gatherers. If you look at hunter-gatherers who are like untouched by modern civilization, they're very satisfied. They don't have any of the gadgets, they don't have any of the stuff we have, and they're very happy because they have their people, they have their culture, they have nature. And I'm not saying it's all roses and sprinkles, but they have something that is real and authentic to them. And it's very simple, it's straightforward. It's the Taurian thing. And uh, we in this civilization in this modern age, us being polluted, I really feel like we've been polluted, whether it's, in a what we consume, or it's the literal food with chemicals, or it's the actual air or the environment with leaks and spills or chemicals, or it's even our houses with certain chemicals in them that we breathe, or the mold that can build up in houses. They've tried to pollute us because when you are not living from, if you're polluted, if you're sick, then you wouldn't, or if you are sick, like you can't fight back. You can't do anything about it. And otherwise, our needs are very simple. And truthfully, we would just ignore this shit. The shit wouldn't matter to us. It'd be hilarious to us. Like, who would care about those things? You want me to be mad about that really arbitrary thing? Like, I'm not gonna, no, that means nothing to me. I'm not gonna have moral outrage over something you're trying to bait me with. And I'll conclude here because I know we've been talking for a while. I'm just gonna conclude here. I recently heard this like Democracy Now video where they were interviewing this guy who I'm not sure his like expertise, but basically he talked about the history of the draft dodgers in the Vietnam War and about this idea of the draft coming back. And he was just saying like, hey, what he's like, I don't even think that they can really enforce this. And the truth is, like, there are plenty of people, like, he's like, sorry, I'm trying to remember it. He was saying, I don't think they can really enforce this because the government doesn't have an updated address on everybody. Like, people aren't just like sending this information into them. Like, you could be sent a letter to join the draft, and yet maybe they sent it to a place you don't even know. And so they have a hard time in previous legal cases of proving that, oh, you were told to do this and you didn't do it or you ignored it. They actually have a hard time proving that. And so his advice, he's like, hey, if they call a draft, your job is to ignore it. Ignore it. And I just thought that was really interesting because the burden of proof on them to prove that you got that mail, you got that order is actually extremely difficult. And so it kind of unfurls the whole thing. And so what he's saying is like, hey guys, if you as a collective ignore the order, they can't make you do it. And I just kind of feel like that message is so relevant to so many things that we receive, where it's like, ignore it. If your senses, Taurus, tell you this is wrong, I don't like this, ignore it. Don't follow the commands because the leader told you. No. Listen to what is right to you, and we are strong in numbers. And when we entertain nonsense, we just get nonsense. Like when you ignore it, it has literally no life. And historically, ignoring something was like a death sentence. If you were to ignore a person, that was like them, that being socially outcast was a death sentence. Those people would die because people didn't acknowledge their existence. So when we literally don't put our attention, our consciousness, our focus on things that we don't like, those things wither away and they fail. And so our job is to focus on what matters and just ignore the rest. Ignore the stupid orders, ignore the bullshit. It's nonsense.
Yeah. There is that quote that says something, something, but the intelligent ignore. Do you remember that quote? I forgot what it was. Like, maybe, yeah, it's like basically it comes down to the fact to be intelligent, just ignore that shit. You don't have to deal with it. You don't have to waste an ounce of energy on it. You don't have to conflict with it. You just it's not, I'm not taking the bait, like you said. And so that is already, yeah, there's a, maybe somebody else knows that quote, but it's been there. I've heard that quote for so many years. So, and I hear you. Yeah. And I just think that also what matters is what's actually, if it can matter, if it can turn into matter and build on itself and attract itself, it can create wealth and beauty. And it's a law. That's a higher law. And it's embodied, it's enacted. The proof is in the pudding. And all this stuff in your head, these supposed ideas, you know, and especially challenging um, old, outdated models of things that have somehow been allowed to corrupt. And so I hear that's what you're saying with the drafting, the conscription. Just ignore that. So I get you, and I like that too. Um,
Do you have any final ideas you want to or thoughts you want to bring into this before you wrap up?
I don't know. We didn't look at any of the full moons coming up on May Day. So
Wow. Wow, how relevant after, all those bigger social ideas we just discussed.
it'll be in Scorpio full moon on May Day. And
Mm.
that's kind of what we're moving towards.
Which,
Scorpio.
if you don't know, May Day is International Workers' Day, which literally originated to strike against unfair working conditions.
Exactly.
So it's super relevant.
It is that Beltane vibe too. And it's in the sign of Scorpio, like my rights, and where my rights begin, your rights end, and the esteem of other people's money, psychology,
Mm.
it's another word that they've got. So right, it's pretty cool that they do have it on International Workers' Day. Meaning like, don't tread on me, right? Not that. And so it's interesting because, every month of May, every month of Taurus, we're always going to have the new moon in Taurus, and we'll always have the full moon in Scorpio. So of course it just makes perfect sense that, you know, it's on that, the International Workers' Day, celebration is then, because it's like, yeah, it's like we have rights. Our bodies have rights. We have needs. Don't try to company store us. So, but did you want to put the chart up or no? Or yeah, or is it getting
I just feel like I think we've been talking for about an hour, and I think that I think it would be wise to wrap up now.
yeah, and it was great. Everything you said was so inspiring. I love it. Your mind is amazing.
Thanks,
And yes,
Molly.
Venus blesses you.
Oh, thank you, Venus.
Thank you, Venus. I know it's been nice and rainy and wet up here. So it's been
It's been
blowing.
rainy. Yeah, it's been raining for me too.
We had like massive thunderstorms too, with Uranus like getting ready to cut right out, and then all of the Aries, it's just been big bang and boom. It's like when Venus went into Taurus, Sun was still in Aries. That's when we got like massive downpours, and it's also when I was getting my garden in advance. So yeah, so much stuff has been going on, things I cannot talk about. Anyway, thank you, Hannah. Yeah, I guess we will be back again for when the sun ingresses Gemini, and we will talk about Mercury then, and talk about Gemini things, and until then, right?
Yeah. Sounds great. Great talking to you, Molly, and everybody, thanks for watching. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and we'll see you on the next one.